Hello and welcome to the ISPA GES Exhibitor webinar. I am Jessica Timberlake, co-chair of the ISPA Exhibitor Task Force. This will be my third year exhibiting as part of the Eminence Organic Skincare team, and I am really excited to represent Eminence and serve in this role. On behalf of ISPA and the Exhibitor Task Force, thank you so much for joining us today. We have a lot of helpful tips to share with you, and we encourage you to share this webinar with your team or even have a viewing party in advance of ISPA to help you prepare. If you have any questions or ideas after you view the webinar, please feel free to reach out to Autumn Phelps on the ISPA team, who is here to help you with whatever you may need. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our other presenters. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce the ISPA Chairman, Todd Shaw, aka T3, with the Peaks Resort and Spa in Telluride. Todd is a seasoned veteran of ISPA and knows all the insider tips and strategies from the perspective of a spa buyer. Welcome, Todd.
Oh, thank you, Jessica.
Next, we have David Safe, who is the Executive Vice President of Strategy and Market Work for GES. David will be sharing with us the strategies for creating a memorable exhibit experience and also various ways to engage attendees pre, during, and post-conference. David is joined by Carolyn Reppy, also with GES, who will share trade show secrets on how to save time and money on material handling, shipping, and ordering furnishings. Thank you again so much for taking the time to watch this webinar. At this time, I'll turn it over to David to get us started.
Thank you very much, Jessica, and I'm really excited to share with you our perspectives on how to be an effective exhibitor, how to take advantage of all the tools and tricks that you'll hear from T3, you'll hear from Jessica and Carolyn, and also, and I'm going to say this a couple times throughout the webinar, I'm going to repeat Autumn Phelps' name at ISPA because I do a number of trainings with a number of different organizations throughout the year, and ISPA really stands out for the level of effort that the staff and your other exhibitors and the folks who've been at the show, the way they really collaborate to make sure you have a successful show and a successful investment and presence at the show. So here it is. Congratulations at a trade show like this. You are the CEO. You're the person in charge for these couple of days. And so the people who are not at the show, or maybe some of the folks who are working your booth, they're really awaiting your hot leads, the opportunities for your customers to have a better appreciation for what you offer and spend, the opportunity to improve your brand perception or just deepen that brand relationship with your customers and stakeholders, to increase media attention, to gain intelligence, to look at new partnerships, and really to exceed your objectives while managing an unlimited budget. So there's a lot there, right? And the big question is, what is your plan for making all this happen? So over the next couple of minutes, you're going to hear our perspectives and our advice and hopefully some good tips and tricks and ways to make for an effective presence. Now, I'm going to draw you to a different brand that hopefully most of us know. So you might have been participating in a picture like this. You hopefully will know the brand Apple. You've been to the Apple store. And we raise this picture, we share it with you because Apple has had a history, right? If you are one of those people who wants to get a new Apple phone, you're willing to line up and wait overnight or wait for hours until they open those doors and they sell you that new phone. And that is very similar to what we all need to think about when it comes to being an exhibitor at ISPA. How do you make sure that people are going to line up? Now, it may not be the physical lineup at the facility. It could be in their minds or as they plan their visit that they put your company and your presence at the top of the list of places to visit. So how do you do that? How do you create that anticipation? Likewise, how do you make your presence memorable? Now, I know not everybody on this call is an Apple iPhone holder, and I understand that, but probably most of us have been to an iPhone store, maybe a Microsoft or Samsung store, and they're all really following in the footsteps of what Apple created. And there's a couple of dynamics here where it is obviously the windows are a big feature of Apple stores. You can see in. It's a very simple layout. And as we'll see in a minute, they really organize information so that it's easy for attendees to see and to engage with what they're interested in. And I want you to think about those different words because it really is, at the end of the day, when you put your footprint down and you set up your booth and you do the other tactics that we talk about at this show, you're creating an expectation and creating a visual and a true attendee experience. How do you set that up for success? Likewise, how do you organize your products and your services? How do you make it visually easy to see, well organized, in places where, and for those of you who have been to an Apple store, you know you can go straight up to the table and use the product, or you can talk to an expert at the Genius Bar. So how do we create similar experiences so that when people are at the ISPA show and they're approaching your booth and they're able to step in, they know where to go and what to do, and they can see a very straightforward and engaging experience as an attendee, as an interested buyer or partner. And this is going to be a theme that I'm going to emphasize throughout, and I know T3 and Jessica will weigh in here as well. Look, if you step back and think about it, you can do all the right things with your back wall, with your different components, with your product displays, but the most important factor, and this is found time and time again in the live event industry, the most important factor in your success is the staff. How do they engage with those attendees? And how do you prepare them to have a successful engagement when they come to the show, when they're working at it? And let me just pause there, because even there I kind of made a mistake. When does the show begin? It does not begin when your staff get to the booth. It begins the moment they leave their respective homes and they travel to the city and travel to the show to participate in the show, when they're on the plane, when they're at the airport, or they're taking the taxi, when they're in the hotel. So it's really important that everyone understands the journey for the attendee and the journey for the staff, including ourselves, begins the minute we leave our houses and we're out there with an opportunity to engage and help someone and turn a ad hoc conversation into an engagement opportunity, whether it's at your booth or not. Now, you are accountable for, and I'm using two different acronyms here, return on investment and return on objectives. And if you're looking at return on investment, it's basically the sales minus the cost of sales over the cost of the investment. It looks kind of complicated here, but I think I'm going to emphasize the ROO, which is return on objectives. And that's really thinking about what is the expected value. Now, there's a lot of different ways to define this, and this webinar is not getting into formulas. We want to keep this as high level and simple as possible. But I think the goal here is, if you think about who are the customers with the greatest opportunity, whether they're existing customers or new customers, where's the greatest opportunity? Who are the people that are best positioned to use your products and your services? And how do you make sure you optimize that engagement from the minute they find out about the show and attending it to being on the floor and being in the hotel? And also, how do you spend your money wisely, right? And so whether you report on ROI or ROO, there's a couple things that are really important about this slide. One is, make sure you do have in mind what you're trying to achieve out of the show. And I'm going to show you some of the show objectives in the next minute or so. Second thing is, make sure you're optimizing everything you can to engage the right audience and spend your money wisely, and think about how you quantify that formula so that you're able to report back to your stakeholders on the success of being at ISPA. Now, part of this is really forming the right goals. Now, I am laying out this template for you. This is a template that we work with all of our clients on, and we work with thousands of exhibitors every year on preparing and producing their experiences, and it always starts with their goals. And so if you take the wording as is, that's great. If you want to adapt this wording to what makes sense for your business, that works. But let me just talk through the key three parts here, number three being other. But number one, when it comes to leads, engagements, opportunities, meetings. So one, it's critical that you quantify what you're trying to achieve. So we're going to generate X leads and engagements. If this is your first time at ISPA, so two words of wisdom. One, think about what would be the number of people with certain attributes that would make your presence at ISPA worthwhile. Secondly, feel free to call someone like August at ISPA and have a conversation about some experiences with other exhibitors and get their perspective on what would be a reasonable goal based on the profile of the audience coming to the show. But having a number is important because otherwise it becomes just an opinion by you and your staff. Second, you can see by the lead definitions here, there's only A and B. And I know that some people in marketing say, well, I've got C, D, and E leads. I really try and keep it as A leads or B leads, hot leads or folks you want to groom. And whether you agree with the different criteria here, the business size and budget, the services or the products that they're interested in, and the timing for action, what I do encourage you to do is only have 3 criteria. Why 3? Because what you are going to need to do is make sure that your staff also know what those criteria are. The more criteria you add, frankly, the harder it is to remember. And when you're dealing with thousands of people coming by your booth, you don't want your staff trying to figure out what are the 5 criteria I need to use to screen somebody. It's really 3. Does the business profile or business size or budget, is that a good fit for us? Do they need something from us? Is there something they're interested in? And then there's timing for action. So a lot of people ask me, like, how do I know that I made an impact from a trade show? And the way we define it is that if an action is taken 10 to 12 weeks post-event, then you could draw a link between what took place at the event and that action. So in other words, if someone says, I want to meet with you in your office next week, that's an indication that they're pretty interested. Let's talk about it. They want to have a phone call or they want to have a capabilities demonstration. If it's the next 6 weeks, that's more urgent timing, so it's an A lead. If it's the next 3 months, it becomes more of a B lead. If it's beyond that, it really is probably a groom situation. So, it's an other category. And yes, you could differentiate. Just keep it really simple. So that's one thing. What's your business results? Second piece is change the perception. Now, why do we share this with you? Because at the end of the day, and this is something you might want to think about how you measure success, well, we've looked across hundreds and thousands of trade shows, and we've talked to lots of different attendees about their experience. It really comes down to 2 fundamental things when you ask the attendee. Did you learn something new? And that's why we have this phrase, targeted attendees with whom we will engage will learn the following things. The second piece, which is related to that, is as a result of your visit here today, are you likely to fill in the blank? Buy more products, ask for a capabilities demonstration, include this company in the next purchasing opportunity. So the key here is, what are attendees your target attendees, what do you hope they will learn about your business? And again, be specific. And if you wanted to test this, and I do this sometimes as people leave the show and I say, hey, did you visit Acme Corporation? Well, I did. Great. What would you say were the key things that you learned from your visit there? If those attendees can't tell an outside interviewer what they learned by interacting with you, you haven't moved the needle on perception. And you haven't moved the needle on perception, chances are they may or may not give you an opportunity going into the future. So lots of food for thought there. Now, now we've kind of covered ROI and goals, I want to bring in Todd and Jessica and get your perspectives on how do you guys, when you think about your target audience, you think about how am I going to make an impression, how do you reach out prior to the conference and connect with attendees with ISPA? T3?
Yeah, well, thank you. And I would contest that it probably starts conference before they leave their houses. It's with that personal touch on the emails, reaching out prior to conference and introducing yourselves. And we get so many emails that I'm not talking about an email blast. I'm talking about something that maybe you've researched me, researched the company I work for, the spa that I'm in, and how does your brand connect with that? And actually putting some of that personalized touch into your communication. That's certainly very helpful from a personal side. I always feel more apt to respond to those things and make personal connections because all in all, at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to build relationships that we can work together over time, that we're both successful. So I really appreciate that time, and I know it takes a lot more time, but I do think it's certainly a lot more worth it than just a generic email blast. So take the time to do that, get to know who your people are, what the spas you really want to target. As David said, find those people out and put a little personal touch to it. Jessica, what have you guys found to be successful?
Todd, thank you so much. I could not agree more. We also reach out personally before the show to each of our current clients, and we do homework on any prospects that we want to meet with. We also take advantage of the pre-conference advertising in Pulse Magazine and definitely make sure that we have an ad in the on-site conference issue as well. We've also participated in the ISPA Reveal Box to get our products in the hands of decision makers. Another useful tool for us is the Map Your Show's attendee scheduling tool that will help set up appointments. You can do this right from your exhibitor dashboard, and you can control when and how many appointments you offer. A little insider's tip about that is to make sure your dashboard is most up to date, and you can even put a little description of a product launch or something new that you're showcasing in your company description to give attendees a hint of what they can find out. We also do use social media to help promote our presence at the show by pairing the popular hashtag ISPA 2017 with a branded hashtag. That's a really great way to get some exposure. You can also consider running a pre-conference social media contest to get some engagement and conversation happening before the big event. In addition to the social media hashtags, you can also do different promotions and use your custom link from Map Your Show so that attendees can click and go straight to your information page with your booth number, show special, and appointment scheduling. Some of the other exhibitor task force members that I've seen will use short social media video clips, which are really fun and super engaging for an audience, and then use the Map Your Show link on that post. So that's another great way to get, again, the conversation going before ISPA.
Yeah, and I love, Jessica, the Map Your Show. I use that through actually all the way up to conference to try to learn about new brands and new products. So I think that's a very good point to make sure that that's a real robust showing of what your company is and who your brand is, and it's certainly helpful from the buyer side.
Sounds great. Hey, listen, great ideas here. So there's a lot of ideas also on the page that you all can see. Here's what I would just say as I step back and listen to me. First of all, T3 and Jessica have great ideas here. There's a lot on this page. What I would advise you to do is, one, think about your target audience and think about how they and where they consume information. There are some things like a calling campaign where if your audience and the folks you're targeting are really used to talking and having that personal touch, then making phone calls prior to the show to set meetings in addition to using the Map Your Show attendee scheduling tool, maybe you should do that campaign. Reach out personally, have those conversations. As far as the advertising, sending out postcards, sending out emails, there's a lot of different tactics. What I would advise you to do is don't try and do everything. Choose a couple of different tactics that make sense for your company and your audience, and then really focus on doing a great job with those initiatives. There are some sponsorship opportunities here. There's also different engagement that can take place at the conference and giving out and providing demonstrations. But again, we all know that we're leading busy lives, and you can get stretched in too many different places by trying to do it all. Focus on a couple of the most impactful tactics that make sense for your audience, and then really make the most of that, and do monitor what works. And when it comes to the attendee scheduling tool on Map Your Show, I recommend that you set a goal for a number of meetings you're going to set and take at the show and monitor, and then see how you can improve that going forward. So lots of different ideas to really optimize the experience before the show. Now, let's move to at the show. So when it comes to being at the show, there are lots of different things here. I'm going to talk through some of these dynamics we found, and then I would love to have T3 and Jessica weigh in again with just things that are important in terms of your presence. First, in the upper left-hand corner, simple, impactful back wall and use of color. So one of the biggest mistakes we see with exhibitors is they either cram too much information into their back wall, or whatever they put on their back wall is not clear. So you need to bear in mind, as the attendee is going by, they have 2.5 seconds to look at your back wall and figure out, what do you do, what's distinctive about it, and is it worth stepping into the booth to have a deeper engagement. So be careful on what you offer there to make sure that is clear and it's engaging and people want to learn more. On the right-hand side, make meetings a focus, whether it is making sure there's space for meetings, having a table and chairs, having a little high table so that people can engage, but make it clear you want to engage with people. If they don't see that opportunity for engagement, they're likely to say, well, they're just kind of putting out the products to show them. I'm not really sure if they really want to talk with me. In the bottom right-hand corner, create experiences. And we're going to hear from Jessica and T3 about some of the experiences they've either offered or engaged with, but make it an experience. Make it memorable, right? When people walk away, they want to know, wow, they really thought about how their products can benefit my spa and the experience I'm creating for my customers. And then this last point, bottom left-hand corner, and this is a really key point, and this goes back to staffing. Make sure they're engaged at the aisle. That doesn't mean harassing people. It means genuinely sparking conversation and meaningful conversation with the attendee, but being at the aisle. The worst thing we see, and we see a lot of it, and this is why I'm saying it, is when people pull up a table, they put a chair behind the table, they sit in the chair all day, and then they look at their emails or answer messages. It's the greatest signal that I don't want to be here is when you're doing that kind of behavior. So make sure the staff understand when you're coming to work ISPA, you're there all day and you're on your feet. And even when you go and maybe you go out and you get a snack within the show or you go within the campus of the hotel, make sure that staff know you're on and you've got to be engaged wherever you go unless you're in your guest room. So I'm going to hand it back over to Todd here, and Tite, love to get your perspective on creating a memorable exhibit experience.
Yeah, David, I mean, those are all great points. I think really the biggest thing is that you got to put your best foot forward and design a really impactful space. You got to remember you're bringing your showroom to us. You're bringing your entire company to us, and your complete representation of what you want us to get, that immediate feel, that first 3 seconds. Who are you? Are you a potential partner with this? Can I envision myself working with you? And that happens immediately. And I love your point about being friendly and upfront. That's very good. We also want to touch and feel products. As we walk around the showroom floor, I mean, we're all spa people. We end up putting the lotions, creams, serums, all the things in our hands, smelling, touching, feeling, and trying. So make sure that if that's a part of your strategy, if you have those things that they're out there and they're available, and you're ready to go for it and get us involved and have that playful type atmosphere. If you're a yoga brand, and how do you differentiate yourself? Let me tug and pull and feel, and what are the differentiators that make your yoga wear something different, or any of those things that you think that you can really show and position. That's got to be kind of incorporated into your brand, into your booth, and really kind of have that first couple seconds where, I really got to figure out what's going on here. This is something new or something I'm used to before, and maybe I just haven't learned enough about it yet. So always remember in your brand, always remember what you want to position, and how does that brand, again, tie in with all the places or your targets. So I appreciate all your comments, because certainly when you have a clean, open space, it makes it more inviting. Is there any other ways that you can really enhance your booth, David?
I think those are the big ones. I think, some people do talk about interactive technologies, touch screens, sometimes playing games. So here's what I'd say. Sometimes when you have if you have a demonstration on an iPad or you do have a touch screen, that can be helpful. One thing I'd be cautious about is games or spinning the wheel type of activities. There are some activities that exhibitors will do that will generate a lot of people, but if those people are not genuinely interested in buying and using your products to benefit their guests, then you've got a whole lot of interactions with people that may not be totally relevant to where you're going with your business. Yeah. Jessica, anything you'd add on this?
Absolutely. I just would like to add that it's so important, just echoing everything that David and Todd that you guys just said, about making sure the booth feels really open, really warm, really welcoming. And this doesn't have to be expensive. One thing that we do, we put up a little chalkboard sign out front that says free hugs. Now, that doesn't really have a high cost associated with it, but you can bet for sure that's a conversation starter. Even if maybe someone doesn't want a hug, it's a great way to just break the ice and get some great conversations going. And I also would recommend to look for your, quote, pig in the window. That's a retail saying that means to put something really unique, so unique it almost seems out of place, again, as a great conversation starter. For example, we had teddy bears at our booth last year. And that was, you might be wondering, what do teddy bears have to do with organic skincare? Well, you had to talk to us to find out.
Yeah, and I can't find it hard to imagine that we wouldn't want hugs at the ISPA conference. I feel like that's all we do is hug, right?
All right, you guys, I'm going to move from the hugging. Let's talk about some of the getting rid of the shrugging. So here is a framework that we use when it comes to making sure you have an impactful presence. So what I'm sharing with you is there are 7 key criteria we use to evaluate an effectiveness of an exhibit. 6 are on this page and 1's on the next page. I'm sharing this with you as a tool that you can use when you're thinking about your booth, when you're thinking about your experience, and you're thinking about what the attendee goes through, what their journey is. And I'm going to briefly just talk through this, and I want you to think about this as a check. When you're making your plans and you're looking at your booth and you're thinking about where things go and what the experience is, how would I rate? And so we do this on a 1 to 5 scale. Strong would be 5, weak would be 1. So the first criteria is brand visibility, so your brand and who you are. Now, most of the show is an inline show, meaning you can't hang signs. There may be, there will be hanging signs from the show itself, but when it comes to 10 feet away or right in front of your booth, and I know this sounds like mom and apple pie, but is the name of your company and the products or services you offer, is it visible? Does it stand out? And you'd be shocked at the number of companies where they have a presence, they have a booth, but when you're standing in the booth or you're looking at their graphic, you have no idea what company that graphic or that product represents. So make sure your brand is visible and clear. Approachability. So both Jessica and T3 have said this. I don't want to belabor it. Make sure your booth is open. Related to this, if you have more than 2 or 3 staffers, make sure they don't form a wall, a barrier for people getting in. It's one of the biggest mistakes we see. Staffers stand next to each other, they're chatting with each other, and the message to the attendee is they don't want to talk to me, they want to talk to each other. So even when you have an open booth, which has been said several times, do make sure that your staff are not blocking the booth by talking to each other and standing. They can stand in proximity to each other, but not necessarily kind of forming a wall next to each other. Wayfinding, even for the smallest booths. I want to come in and I want to see what I can see, and I want to go up to what I want to touch or what I'm interested in. So do make sure that you've got some clear hierarchy on how to find what I'm looking for and what you have to offer, so that you make it easy for the attendee. If they have to kind of ask too many questions to figure out if you have something, then you make it too difficult for them and they're going to move on. The client journey. So not everybody has a client journey, but especially in a small presence, but do think about that journey. Think about it in the facility, in the city, in the airport, and then think about as people approach you, what kind of experience, as Jessica said with the hugs, free hugs, that's a showstopper, right? That stops you in your tracks. It's unexpected, and it makes you think, gosh, these are really fun and interesting people. I want to either get a hug or I want to learn more. So think about that experience. Also think about the experience as they walk away. What are they feeling and what are they learning? And then think about, and I'll talk about this in a minute, the give-get. What do you get from the attendee for information and interest? What do you give to the attendee? The product and service engagement. Make sure they understand not just what your product is called or what it is, but why it's important for the user, what the benefits are. We see too many things that list off what a product does, but doesn't really encapsulate why and how it can make your guests more comfortable or just more enjoyable for their stay at your spa. And then the messaging. And the big message on messaging, but the big thing I want to say on messaging is, besides making it compelling and attractive, the biggest mistake we see is people who write or use an ad from a magazine as a graphic in a trade show booth. They make sure the text on your graphics, the text on your messaging is big and bold and not too wordy. People are not going to spend much time in your booth. They might spend up to 5 minutes if you give them a great experience. Maybe it's 10 to 15 minutes. But they're not going to spend time reading all the bullets and all the nuances of the product. They'll probably take a brochure back to their room. So some key call-outs here and thinking about the experience. And as I said earlier, the most important factor is your staff. Get the right people coming to ISPA. This is probably the biggest takeaway that I want you to have from today's webinar. If you get the wrong people who are in the wrong mindset, who don't want to be there, you're going to fail. And no one wants you to fail. We all want you to succeed. If you have a higher level executive at the ISPA, do have them open your training and explain how important the presence at ISPA is for your business and how important it is to be on throughout the entire campus. Make sure staff understand the objectives and strategy you have and the whole experience. What else is going to happen at the show that they might recommend or might work with you on. This is controversial, but I'll say it anyway. If someone doesn't want to be at the show and they're looking at their emails and they're talking to customers and they're not participating, I give you permission to dismiss them. Tell them to go back to their room and do whatever work they have to do in their room if they're distracted. You don't need distractions. You're open for business for 3 days. You want to make the most of it. Make sure your staff are there to help you be successful. And then if you have the opportunity, make attendance at ISPA a privilege, not a requirement, meaning the best companies identify the best people who want to be there and make it a privilege to be at the show, as opposed to asking you to go to the show because we need another body in the booth. So I'm going to pause here and ask Jessica and T3, thoughts here, other things that you would advise, because you've lived it.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what you're saying. And the way the staff interacts with attendees is certainly instrumental in creating a positive and friendly environment. I want to create relationships there. I want to know that I have people that have a strong will to support me and find a resource partner that can be committed. And so that's really about friendships and relationships, and I have to feel that right in the beginning. So having that positive presence, having that ability to have that smile and eye contact and feel that warm love and compassion that we know from the spa industry. We want to feel that. That's the way that we are as spa people. So have those representatives be the people that can do that for you. I also like companies that really look and to ask me questions. I'm just not just pushing down what their thoughts are, but saying, hey, where are your pain points? Where are the gaps within your business? And then they try to find ways to support those gaps. So really taking an active interest right in the beginning, because as you said, it's not much time in each booth, but so we really need to say, hey, where can we support each other? How can we work together, and how can we make meaningful impacts together? It goes back to the relationships. And it comes out from standing out in front of the booth. I'll reiterate the fact I was saying that not being on the phone, not sitting down, and not creating that wall, and having separation, and being available. And as I walk by, if someone's available and looking at me, I'm forced to stop. I'm forced to say hello. I'm forced to engage. And from there, I can learn a lot, especially if I don't know your company. So make sure that everyone's up there, ready, prepared. Bob Fosse would say, showtime, right? So be ready and be ready to go. Keeping the booth tidy is another thing. You sometimes see, and I know that it can be short on staffing and all of these things, so find ways that we're not eating in booths or drinking or things like that. We have lunch is provided on the showroom floor, and certainly try to find ways that you can schedule appropriately to make sure that your team gets the breaks they need. I know it's a long day. It's a lot of conversation, and people do have a lot of talking to do, so give them that time away and find ways to do that, and do that outside of the booth. And just smiling and eye contact, as I said, the spa world, as we all know, full of love and compassion. Express that from your heart. Take your 3 deep breaths and exude that positive energy, and it will go a long way in engaging all the people there.
Sounds great. Jessica, anything you'd add?
Absolutely. It's the same as a lot of our resort spas might coach their staff. It's that 15-5 rule. At 15 feet away, it's eye contact. At 5 feet away, it's a personal greeting. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, how are you? So really just making sure to start that engagement and that conversation right off the bat. Harking back to last ISPA when Simon Sinek was one of our keynote speakers, we do a lot of deep dives into his different talks and TED Talks, and we learned that we need to start by asking why. So a simple question of why are you at ISPA, or why are you stopping by our booth, can help us unpack what that buyer is looking for, and then we can make the best customized recommendations that they're looking for to help grow their business. It's our job as exhibitors to connect with and engage attendees. ISPA provides the traffic, and the rest is up to our smiling faces and free hugs.
I love it.
Sounds great. Sounds great. All right, I'm going to keep us moving here. And at GES, we do produce an annual report called Trend Tracker. And in Trend Tracker, we've got lots of different perspectives here in terms of stretching the experience and immersing attendees and creating buzz. And we want to give you just some of the insights and some of the trends we're seeing out there to help you make the most of your experience. The first one I did mention a little bit earlier, and I just want to give you some examples here of how different exhibitors are using touch screens either to display product, and by the way, some of these are also they're LCD screens where you've got products behind the screen and you can display information about the product, which you see with the Philips sign booth, or you could see touch screens on the pedestals there, or the picture in the upper right-hand corner is a company that is using an interactive tool to take a survey, get perspectives from attendees, to share different products and to show how those products can be applied in different environments. So there is a move to link both the marketing to the interactive using technology in the booth. It's also a way to capture information about attendees, capture their interests, and give them a more immersive and engaging experience. So using that technology. Now, here I could show you some of the things going on with some of the virtual reality and augmented reality. Those are hot topics these days. Some of those are fairly sizable investments as well. So that virtual reality and augmented reality are also hot topics. It's just one of those things of really thinking through is showing your product virtually better than actually just showing your product, particularly for the spa industry. When it comes to the whole experience, we've talked a lot about the different components. I just want you to take a broader perspective of, on the left-hand side, how do you measure success? How do you develop your strategy and refine your messaging? And then as you look through this graphic where it says pre, and then show, and then post, on the upper hand, above the word pre, what are the different things that you're doing, and how are you working with ISPA to spread the word, whether it's through the advertising, social media campaigns, doing personalized emails? How do you spread that word about your presence and your offer? And then down below, what does that do for you? It's building anticipation. Is it helping you schedule meetings? Can you see that people are taking those meetings with you? Are you collecting any data by some of your campaigns? And then likewise, when you get to the on-site experience, are you making sure it's immersive and interactive? Are you asking those key questions on why? And are you collecting information? Are you making sure that you're getting insights on the attendee interest and how you can meet them? And then post. So I'm going to say this, and I hope you hear me. Industry study after industry study has showed that 80% of interactions at a trade show are never followed up. So don't come to ISPA, don't get a booth, don't have your staff fly in, and don't show your product if you're not going to do anything post-show. Flip side of that, make sure you have a plan of attack the minute the show is over. And the only caveat to that is you don't have to send out the follow-up email the day after. Most people take 3 to 5 days to decompress and get through their inbox. So it's okay to send an email 5 to 7 days afterwards. It's okay to make a phone call 10 days to 2 weeks afterwards. But do make that phone call. Do send that email. Do follow up. Do make sure you close on new business or existing, more of existing business, so that you're making the most of the investment of time and resources in ISPA. Likewise, really think through your pre-show communications and the opportunities that you have. And I know, Jessica, you've had a bunch of experience with this, but love to get your perspective on how do you create that anticipation? How do you kind of make sure that you're making the most of any kind of new product launch or promotion during the show?
Sure, absolutely. The more familiar that attendees are with your company, the more comfortable they will feel with your brand and placing an order with you and talking about new products. So take advantage of every opportunity you have to get the voice of your brand out there. That brand recognition builds comfort, builds confidence, and ultimately builds those relationships. ISPA has so many great ways to help you launch new products or to grow your business for all different investment levels, both before, during, and once the show's over, just again echoing what David said, please don't forget to follow up with your potential clients by sending them personalized emails or connecting on a quick call. Doesn't have to be the very next day, but just like David said, make that call. You want them to remember you, so take the time to remember them and also thank them. Time is a gift, and we only have so much time that we can spend with friends and vendors and business partners at ISPA, and it really is a message that we need to thank everyone who's dedicated some of their show time to your brand.
That's great. So just to reinforce here, there's a lot. We've talked about some of the opportunities when it comes to placing an ad in a conference magazine or in Pulse generally, sending out those sampling or sending out emails, doing personalized outreach, taking meetings with the attendee scheduler on map your show. Your listing. We have seen many studies that show if you get your listing to be complete as soon as it's available, you're going to get more hits and more interest in your offerings. Think about room drops. Think about the daily emails. Think about all the different tools here that you can use to connect with the attendee. Please, by the way, don't ignore the personal on-site, I'm there for you, or I see you in the hallway and I help you get to your room. So there's that piece of that, but there are lots of different tools, and I know Jessica just mentioned it, but I think ISPA really does stand out as being collaborative. And if you're a new exhibitor and you're wondering where to start or what to do, if you're wondering if the idea you have in mind might work or might not work, call on them and run it past her, get her feedback. She'll give you a perspective. She might link you up with T3 or Jessica just to have an additional conversation, but it's one of those things of using the show organizer to really help you get feedback and make the most, especially if you're a new exhibitor. They've seen it. I'm not going to say they've seen it all, but they've seen almost all, and they certainly have a perspective on what works and what doesn't. T3, anything you'd add here?
Well, I just like that idea of the follow-up, and oftentimes I'll ask the brands if they'll follow up with me at a particular time. So that is also helpful, because as we get back to our office, we do have hundreds of emails to go through. We have our operation to consider. So if I ask, can you follow up in 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks, depending on where I think I am in my timelines, that's a really important timeline to remember. And so taking those notes, I think, would really be helpful.
Sounds great. Okay, so just getting to the post-show as a reminder, make sure you do a sales analysis or sales potential analysis. Watch for the post-conference attendee list from ISPA. Arrange for that follow-up like we talked about. Review your bill, and you're going to hear a little bit more about this from Carolyn. Make sure you fill out your exhibitor survey. So it has been fantastic to have T3 and Jessica here. It shows the passion they have for the show and the collaboration they have. But let's face it, if the show and the organization doesn't know about your experience, it's going to be hard for them to guess ways to improve the show. So take that extra couple of minutes to fill out that survey. And the GES, we ask you a survey as well for participating. And then really look for that exhibitor early commitment registration. So a lot of things about the strategy and the experience and making the most of your presence. At this point, we're going to shift gears here and talk more about the planning and making sure you're taking advantage of all the offers and ways to make your presence impactful, but also make it efficient and make it economical. So I'm going to hand it off to Carolyn now. Carolyn?
Hello. Thank you so much. I just want to mention that GES has built a custom exhibitor portal specifically for ISPA, which includes all of the information you will need to plan successfully for your event. The online site includes important show dates and information, options to order products and services, booth rules, regulations, plus freight rates and guidelines to keep you on time and on budget. Let's move on to the next slide, and we'll dig into some of these details. If you need assistance, GES is here to help. You can contact our National Service Center by phone or online chat to ask questions and to get advice. If you are a new exhibitor, we are your experts. Use us as a resource to become a knowledgeable and confident exhibitor. Booth guidelines are in place to promote continuity, enforce safety and fire regulations, and to outline union jurisdictions. Bear in mind that not all services will be provided by GES, so ask questions so that you have a solid understanding of what is permitted and who will be doing the work. A few highlights for your ISPA booth would include a finished floor. You have to order some kind of flooring or bring in your own, so just make sure that you are covered. Your standard 10 by 10 booth comes with an 8-foot back wall and 3-foot high side rails. There's no furnishing included, so just make sure that you order those before the deadline. There are no line of sight restrictions, so you have the opportunity to make an impact. You can also refer to attendispa.com for full guidelines. You will save time and money by ordering furnishings, carpeting, and labor before September 25th. That is your deadline. This will save you up to 30%, and you will have more options to choose from. Remember, September 25th is your deadline. Shipping deadlines are also critical. Have your shipments prepared, packed, labeled, and delivered to our advanced warehouse on or before Tuesday, September 12th. Shipping in advance is less expensive. You will also receive a confirmation that we received your materials and a preliminary invoice so you can review all of your charges. No surprises. The best part is your materials will be in your booth before you arrive to set up. When you're decorating your booth, consider ordering furniture packages so that you can save 10% compared to ordering everything a la carte. We have created packages based on the items that are ordered most often year over year by ISPA exhibitors. This includes items such as cocktail tables with bar stools, meeting tables with chairs, and carpet with vacuuming service. The material handling, your booth furniture, and electrical are ordered most frequently, and the majority of exhibitors will order all three. So be sure that you have placed your order for these items before September 25th to get the discounted rate. Again, bear in mind that services are not all coming from GES, and some are provided by the hotel. So electrical services are provided by the hotel, as well as food and beverage, booth cleaning, internet, audiovisual, floral, and plumbing. You can link directly to the Mandalay Bay services via our ISPA Exhibitor portal. Should be super easy for you guys to navigate. We'll move on to the next slide and touch on some shipping and handling tips. Shipping and material handling are two separate services. Shipping is the over-the-road transportation of your goods, and material handling is the unloading, empty crate storage, and reloading of your goods. You have your choice of carriers, so be sure to use an over-the-road carrier that is familiar with trade show shipments to minimize special handling fees and eliminate wait times at our marshaling yard. GES logistic quotes are available to you upon request. Shipping with GES creates a more seamless experience as we can track and locate your shipments. You can call us directly to find out where it is in transit, and you'll also save an additional 10% on your material handling. We have a specific team of people dedicated to your shipping needs, so reach out to us for expert advice. There are so many possibilities in a lot of scenarios, so we are here to help you with your shipping. Moving on to the next slide, I'd like to mention that there is a lot of passion surrounding how to get materials in and out of the show efficiently and economically. Take the time to understand the terminology and have a strategic plan to avoid unnecessary charges. Things like consolidating your shipments, know your weights, make sure everything is either in a crate or shrink wrapped on a skid. Doing these things before you get to the show will eliminate surcharges, uncrated fees. So just be sure that you understand what it is that you're shipping and how things are going to be sent to GES.
So Carolyn, I'm going to jump in real quick on you here, and I just say to folks, if you're new to the trade show business or you're new to ISPA, Carolyn has called out the phone number of our National Service Center, and I know this is a lot of information when you're looking at certain terms or how to handle freight, and I just want to reinforce what Carolyn just said, which is call us. Tell us what you're planning and what you're bringing to the show, and we can spend, it's hard to do this on a webinar, but easy to do over the phone. We can talk you through the best way to take advantage of the transportation, the shipping, and the handling of your properties when you get to show site. So just a quick call out to reinforce, our National Service Center is not here just to take a quick question or to clarify an order. It's really to talk you through how best to take advantage of all the different offers that are being given through the show.
Absolutely. We are definitely here to help, and we can help you develop a strategy. There are additional fun facts on attendispa.com in the exhibitor toolkit that you can refer to for additional examples. So just remember to have your shipping information with you at the show. Include your carrier information, if you have driver phone numbers, and especially tracking numbers. For smaller shipments, you can hand carry your materials through the front of the hotel. While you're not permitted to use electric equipment or dollies, you can make multiple trips through the front of the hotel or through the parking garage to hand carry in your materials, which is at no charge. Or you can also take advantage of our cartload service. It's a flat rate of $68 per trip, and it's applicable to those who have a car full of materials that is less than 8 pieces and weighs less than 200 pounds. But for $68, we will have a team of people drive all your stuff over to the booth. It's a great deal if you have your own vehicle or even a box truck.
Sounds great. Well, I think at this point we're really towards the end here, And I'm going to hand it back to Jessica.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us on the call today. Thank you again to David, Carolyn, and T3. We hope everyone found this webinar helpful throughout the planning process. Again, we know this is a ton of information, so we welcome you to reach out and follow up with ISPA staff at any time. You can see all the contact information there. Again, we just want everyone to feel completely comfortable with your preparation and planning. Visit attendispa.com or again, reach out to Autumn to assist with anything you may need. And as mentioned, GES is there to be a resource for you if you have questions about logistics that haven't been covered. And also, if you have a new marketing idea or would just like to get some feedback or bounce some ideas around off the ISPA experts, again, we're here to help you. And with that, that wraps it up for me. Todd, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I appreciate GES, the Global Experience Specialist, calling out their phone number, and I want to make sure that everyone realizes that the International Spa Association is also available and committed to the success. We have a big circle of trust here. All of us are partners in your success, and I know nothing excites the International Spa Association team more than hearing about your success. So let us help you. If you have a question, pick up the phone. Ask us. If we don't know, we're going to find the right people that have the answers for you. And I just want to say I sincerely appreciate everyone's support for supporting the International Spa Association, supporting our industry, helping elevate our industry. That's what it's all about. And we're true partners in all of this. I just can't wait to see everybody in Vegas, and it's just going to be epic. And it's going to be certainly one to remember. And so thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you all there.